Now, Trey Lance, in my opinion, is much improved. I think he's thrown a better ball. I think he looks far more knowledgeable in the offense. He should. It's almost like taking Spanish 1 twice. The second year, you should do better than the first year, right? I mean, or it's I look at football in some ways like a foreign language because there's a lot of memorization. There's a lot of things you almost have to. It does help you to take. It's like taking a class a second time when you're second year in a complex offense. I mean, if you don't realize how complex the Niners offense is, Cameron Latou looks just totally bewildered right now on the practice field because his head's spinning and he can't catch the ball. He dropped 2 today, and we talked to him after practice, and he's like, "There's a lot of factors, there's a lot of things going on." He's like, "I just got to be better," which is the right thing to say, but his head's spinning because of all the nuances to the pro game that didn't exist at Bama. But I think Trey's improving dramatically. But I don't think he should start week 1. I think Brock is clearly the better quarterback right now because of all the things that he can do on the football field, nuance-wise of the position. But the people that are arguing for Trey, Guy, are saying, hey, he's got a skill set like a Mahomes, like an Allen. He's got the body, the strength, the athleticism, the smarts. He's got that kind of a skill set. He's got a higher end skill set than Brock or Sam or Brandon Allen, and that thus these people want to see it right now. I would say I agree with them that he's got a really high skill set, but I also think that he's not quite there yet, and I think they're right to go with Purdy. But I also don't believe if I were the 49ers that I would feel comfortable moving off of Trey Lance. In fact, I think if they moved off of Trey Lance, they would regret it. Where are you with Lance? And you talked to John earlier today. Where you guys? Where's John with Lance? Where do you guys feel like? Do you see the improvement? Do you feel like he's on a trajectory of being a franchise quarterback, or are you guys both very skeptical, or do you differ in how you look at him?
I think I'm more optimistic about him than John, but part of that is John has said for a while, like he thinks Kyle's going to go with Darnold as his backup quarterback, or ahead of Trey. And I think there's a lot of validity to thinking Kyle's going to do that. But I have said, I'm not out on the possibility that Trey can still become a franchise quarterback because of his talent level and because I've seen him improve. I'm with you. He does look better. I think he throws a more consistent spiral this year than he has in years past. So if we just want to talk about the fundamentals of him getting the ball out, he still sometimes throws a little bit of a wobbler, but that happened. I mean, that's not exclusive to him. But it feels like to me sometimes he does when he tries to really power the ball. But he has thrown several balls, kind of intermediate throws that have been as good as any other throws that anybody's making in Niners camp over the last several years. Like now, they're not plus throws, but they are NFL throws. They are the throws that move the ball down the field. Ultimately, for Kyle to give Trey the chance, however that has to transpire again, right? Sometimes on this team, it's just meant by default, somebody becomes the starting quarterback because other guys get hurt. But I do think he's going to have to trust that he can make the layup throws consistently if he's going to choose Trey over one of these other guys who maybe more consistently makes that throw. But if we just remove Kyle from the equation and say, is there still potential upside on Trey? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. It's different than what we thought it was when he came into the league, where you really thought the quarterback run game was going to be a part of his repertoire. I've thought he looks pretty uncomfortable running. Now, maybe if he takes more time and gets to play 10, 12 games in a row, which I think is pretty critical for anybody, then that part becomes a little more natural for him. But I actually think it's not in his. I know some people think he should demand a trade. I've talked about it. We all have. I don't think it's necessarily in his best interest, although we can agree he needs to play. But I wouldn't give up on being the 49ers quarterback quite yet if I were Trey Lance's agent, let's say, right? And think like, oh, yeah, just get me somewhere where I can get a bunch of snaps, because that is critical. But he's at a point where he should really know this offense, playing for a coach who I don't think has a long quarterback leash, with two other quarterbacks that are pretty unproven, right? And on a team with a quarterback injury history. So I wouldn't rush out of this. Like, if I were his agent, I wouldn't try to rush him out of this situation quite yet. I'd let this thing play out.
Did you watch the Hall of Fame game at all?
No, very little.
But you're aware that Dorian Thompson-Robinson played well in it, right?
Yes, I am. I've been aware that Niner fans want Dorian to be their quarterback. Yes.
Well, there's that angle too. But I just think my whole point in bringing it up is just that I really think that Trey's value. I mean, the talk. Mike Silver said, "Oh, the Niners were offered conditional 5th-round picks for Trey Lance," and there's no way in hell I would make that trade. There's no way in hell I would trade Trey Lance for a conditional 5th-round pick. But if he plays well Sunday against the Raiders, his value will go up the same way that Dorian Thompson-Robinson's value probably went up around the league because of how he played against the Browns in the Hall of Fame game. It's amazing how if you do it on television and people see it, then
and owners see it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like suddenly, like his value. People are talking definitively about his value. Like his value is going to remain the same. No, it won't. He if he plays poorly, they won't be able to get the conditional 5th they were supposedly offered around the draft. If he plays well, that 5th probably becomes a 2nd or a 3rd overnight. But here's my question:
with you on that point, though.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I don't think. Let's say pick a team. The Falcons
that needs
Titans,
a quarterback. The Raiders.
The Raiders. If you're Josh McDaniels and you're kind of on a razor's edge with your owner, you better be damn sure that Trey Lance is your quarterback if you're going to trade a 2nd-round pick for him. If you're the Titans, you're Rand Carthen. You just showed up. Mike Vrabel already kind of had a disagreement with the last GM, and that guy's gone. And you're actually kind of in a good spot, right? If let's say you're Rand Carthen, you're not in a rush to like force a quarterback on Mike Vrabel. You got kind of a little cushion here. You're going to say, Mike, that 2nd-round pick where you can get like premium players? Let's trade that for Trey Lance. You are immediately on the clock with Mike Vrabel. A 5th-round pick, whatever. I'm not so sure that you're getting a 2nd-round pick that quickly. Or even a 3rd-round pick, because I think as the team, you're taking on how many quarterbacks have left Kyle Shanahan? I know we talk a lot, fairly so, about whether or not Kyle can develop a quarterback, but how many guys have left Kyle and gotten better? So I'd be very hesitant to say, let's take this guy who one of the best offensive coaches in the league has moved on from and give a 2nd-round pick for him. I just think you're really putting yourself at risk if you're a general manager or a coach with personnel power, and you do that.
What if he has 3 good preseason games?
Yeah, if he has 3 good preseason games, isn't he the Niners' backup quarterback? Maybe. Now, maybe not. Maybe it's kind of rigged, and Kyle just wants Sam to be the guy. But if he's got 3 good preseason games, I'm not rushing him out of town.
No.
Now that's not what you're saying. You're just talking about what his value is.
Well,
I'm just 2nd-round pick seems really rich.
It does. It does. Well, and I also think the 49ers wouldn't really move Trey, I don't believe, unless they got a player that helped them win the Super Bowl this year. That's how all in they are on winning the Super Bowl. But it is interesting that they somehow said something to Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen to attract them to this situation. And I would have loved to have been on the phone when John Lynch was saying, hey, come here because, and I'd love to hear his because. I just
Kyle
wonder,
has loved you for like 4 years. That's part
right.
of it.
But I wonder, how will the 49ers react? I think Trey's going to play well, right? I really do. That's why I bring this up. I think he's going to play well. What I don't know, guys, I don't know how the 49ers are going to react to him playing well. Are they going to react because, hey, they floated a number of teams, hey, are you interested? And suddenly those teams said, we'll give you a 5th. And now they say, hey, we'll give you a player and a 3rd. And then what if they get a nice offer? Will they say, hey, we got Brock Purdy here and Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen. Let's move off of Trey. Or will they then be so won over by how well he's played and say, no. Well, let's see this thing through to completion. Because the only thing about this is that now there's a cap, and now his number is going up. And it's like you always want to, you general managers, the coach looks about, what's going on Sunday. The GM's got to look what's going on down the road. And what's going on down the road is that you got a really loaded team and some great players that may have to walk out the door at the end of the year, and you have a cap problem. Are you willing to pay Trey Lance the money that it's going to take to keep him next year? If you want him, or do you want to see that development path through to completion, or do you want to recommit to Brock Purdy and stack your roster and have a better cap situation and retain more of your star talent that you have surrounding Brock Purdy? That part I don't know. Do you have a guess on that? Do you think if he plays well, how do they react to it?
Well, I'm not saying they will trade him. I'm saying I think they absolutely would be willing to trade him.
You think so?
Just based on the fact they brought Sam Darnold in on the first day of free agency.
And Brandon Allen.
And what did Kyle say? We don't get rid of players we like. That's what he said when the Brandon. Now, they haven't gotten rid of Zane Gonzalez either. They're just holding him for the same reason they held on to Jimmy last year, right? Maybe he can be value before the season starts. Somebody gets hurt. So it could be as simple as that. But they think, like, if you told Kyle right now, Trey, whatever, Trey's not available to you, he would say, all right, well, I got Sam to be the backup. Brock's my starter. So, we're talking about one of those two guys is the third string quarterback. So,
and they can't keep all four. There's no way to keep all four.
And I wouldn't keep, the idea.
Can't keep 4 on the 53.
Can you keep 3 on the 46?
No.
No. So at least by week 1,
there's that new rule, right?
90. Yeah. So we got the depth chart came out. It said or between the two of them, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I'm looking at the first depth chart for Niners Raiders, and it lists Brock Purdy as the quarterback 1, and then at quarterback 2, it says Trey Lance or Sam Darnold.
Yeah. So is Kyle going to say who the backup quarterback is more than 90 minutes before the Steeler game when he has to turn in the 46-man roster? One of them would be if they're both on the roster, one of them will be the emergency quarterback, right? Dressed out.
But not can't play unless the first 2 guys are hurt.
So is Kyle going to name a backup quarterback before then? Or are these guys going to be or? Because my theory last week was we're going to spend all this time talking about the battle, and there's going to be no answer until they take the field against the Steelers.
What's your prediction on that? Darnold or Lance? Week 1. Number 2.
I said I think the other day I said I think Trey starts against the Raiders. Boy, I don't know. I mean,
it's all predicated on what we see this summer.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the games.
Right now, I think it's tied. Or at least really close.
Too.
But
I do too.
Kyle may not look at it that way.